Hi there, this is Mr. Thill with another math video. Today, we're going to continue our discussion of division. Last time we looked at how multiplication and division relate to each other, how they're inverse operations. This time, we're going to actually take a division problem, a word problem, and we're actually going to talk about how you can model and then solve it. The official term for this is division by sharing. So we're going to be taking a whole, and we're going to be dividing it equally into a certain number of groups. So before I tackle it, let's go ahead and begin our process formally. We need to do our RDW. So we're going to read the problem. We're going to go ahead and identify the component parts of the problem. We're going to go ahead and draw and model the problem, and then we're going to go ahead and write out an answer for it. So let's read the problem first. If Miss Fisher started with 20 markers and each of her 5 students received an equal number of markers, how many markers did each student receive? So with any problem, we're going to do the buck process. We're going to box the question. We're going to underline the math phrases. So we have 20 markers to start, and that's known as the whole. That's how many we have to start with. And then this phrase here, each, that usually indicates that we're going to be dividing into groups because each means each individual. So that's a math phrase. 5 students, well, that's how many groups we have. So we're going to end up having 5 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups, one for each student. And then this phrase here, equal number. Well, right now when you divide, each of the groups has an equal number inside of it. So equal number is a math phrase as well. And then, of course, how many, that's kind of identifying to us what we're trying to find. We're trying to find out how many markers each student received. Okay, so that's the read process. Let's move into drawing and modeling it. So what I know is that I have 20 markers. Those 20 markers are my whole. So I've got a whole of 20 markers. What I also know is that I have 5 students, and Ms. Fisher is going to give each of those 5 students an equal number of markers. So those 20 markers will be divided evenly among 5 students. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a model for my 5 students. So there's student number 1, there's student 2, there's student 3, this is student 4, and this is student 5. When you do division models, especially at the beginning, just keep your model simple. Doesn't matter if it's students or desks or cars or whatever, your model can just be a circle. And then you can model the process of dividing by using your circles. Okay, so I have 20 markers, that's my whole, and I have 5 students. So I have 5 groups for my 5 students. Okay, now, to model the process of giving those 20 markers to my 5 students, I'm basically going to evenly share them to each student. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 20, making sure to give an equal number to each group. But to do that, I just give each group a marker one at a time. So I'm going to count to 20 by using my groups. So 1, 2 markers, 3 markers, 4, 5. Then go back to your first group. 6 markers, 7 markers handed out, 8 markers handed out, 9 markers handed out, 10 markers handed out. You can think of it almost like you're dealing playing cards. You're giving the same number to each person. So that's 10. 11 markers, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Make sure you stop when you've reached your whole. Since I had 20 markers, I'm going to stop when I reach 20 because I don't have any more markers to hand out. Now, one thing to point out before I go and actually solve this problem for you is that when you're doing equal share, try to arrange it like an array. That helps you to keep your work organized and makes it very easy for you to count the number of objects in each group at the end. And you can even more clearly see that you have each group with an equal number of markers. If you do random dots all over the place, it's very hard to compare your groups at the end. So an array helps to keep things neat and organized and helps you get to the correct quotient when you're done solving. Okay, so let's go to model mathematically now. So I had 20 markers, and I divided it among 5 students in 5 groups. My quotient is going to be the number of markers each group received. So looking at each group, they each received 4 markers. So 20 markers divided into 5 groups is 4 markers per group. And you can see that each group does indeed have 4 markers. So my model is now done. For my W, I make sure that when I do my written response, I use the word of the question. Since the question asked me how many markers did each student receive, I can answer like this. Each student received 20 markers. Whoops, sorry. Each student received 4 markers. And with that, I've completed my RDW process, and I am done with modeling division by sharing. So until next time, this was Mr. Thill.